All right, so should be up in a second. It always starts like a good 20 seconds before it actually shows up on the YouTube. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the 19th episode of Sinister Sunday. Thanks for joining us here. Yes, I'm aware I'm lagging like crap as usual, so I apologize for that. Canadian winter sucks. What can I say? But you'll probably be able to hear my Rebellion panel a lot better, so I'll let them do most of the talking if at all possible. But tonight's episode is going to be what bands we feel should have some movies made about them, sort of like, Bohemian Rhapsody, the Runaways, Straight Outta Compton. But we're probably going to mostly focus on metal bands that we think should have movies made about them. And then later on, we're going to be talking about kind of the death of the major record label industry, why it's so hard or bands to get big these days, and kind of why major labels are kind of obsolete now, basically due to social media. So I also want to kind of say hey to our guest for tonight, that being Nick from Death Like Reviews. He started up a channel pretty recently, I think sometime last month. It's been doing all right. He's been getting some views. He's been getting some new subs. So everyone give a warm welcome to Nick from Death Like Reviews.
Hey guys.
Beside me here on the left side, who had to run and take a piss break, is Trez from Total Metal Rejection. Y'all should know his channel by now. Really cool dude. Has a lot of like unboxings and metal collection updates and tape kind of updates and stuff like that. Definitely go subscribe to Total Metal Rejection if you haven't yet. But not leastly, Matt from the Green Iron Cannibal, one of our most recent members of the Rebellion family. And he has kind of opted to start the chat for us. So Matt, what are a couple of things you think should have some movies made about them in the metal world?
I think most importantly would be the band that pretty much started metal, Black Sabbath. They're obviously done with their career, so I think it'd be cool to see how the ideas for the first few albums, when they didn't really have a metal template, got started. And then, I'm sure, of course, all the drama in the band, Ozzy getting kicked out, Dio being in it, the third singer, I forget his name. And then Ozzy rejoining it. That's when he did. So that'd be one. Motley Crue's getting one, which I'm pretty hyped for, because I love Motley Crue. One of my favorite hair metal bands. To step away from metal for a second, my favorite band's Green Day. So I'd like to see one about them. Particularly the early years when they got the major label signing and how the scene in the East Bay kind of shunned them for that. I don't know if I like to see one specific band, but I'd like to see kind of like a collective movie about the thrash scene that was coming out of San Francisco in the 80s. So I'm pretty sure a lot of them knew each other, so you could see how they interacted with each other. And then I guess kind of going back off of Motley Crue, same with the whole Sunset Strip scene. I think it'd be cool to see all those bands, a movie with all those bands, like in the early days. I think that's it for the main ones. So there's loads of bands. I'd like to see a movie for every single band that I like. It's just some of them, more people are interested in some bands than there's other bands. So it wouldn't be viable for a movie or a biopic or whatever to be released for some bands if it's not going to make the money, because that's the root of all evil. That's why these things get made.
Or lack of money.
Yeah.
Or lack of, yeah, definitely. Especially for metal, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But the main one's Black Sabbath, because obviously they were the first metal band. They're the ones who influenced everyone. So just kind of seeing, like, specifically the early days, like I said, when they didn't have, like, no other bands were sounding like them. They just took a completely different path. Yeah, that's my list.
Fair enough, Ben. No, that's a good list, definitely. I think I would add to that maybe the films made about maybe some specific genres in metal, maybe not focus on one singular band, sort of like Lords of Chaos, but let's say like with the deathcore genre, 2 or 3 of the originators of deathcore, and kind of focus on them as the prizes that would be kind of shipped to the public for like a film. So like see it's Whitechapel and I don't know, Winds of Plague kind of, and then maybe kind of in Bring Me the Horizon's first kind of EP and album, as well as like kind of an offshoot to the film, just kind of dip into that a bit. But I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
cool.
it's Black Sabbath definitely should have a movie made about them.
Oh yeah.
So, Nick, did you want to talk about maybe about a couple of bands that you think would be cool to have movies made about them? And
sure.
maybe
I'm gonna kind of go off of what you were saying. I'd like to see maybe a movie made more specifically about a certain genre of metal, instead of and focus on just a couple of the big bands, rather than see just one movie made about a certain band. For me, recently black metal has been a huge thing, and I'd like to see a movie made about like those first bands, like Venom and Celtic Frost and Hellhammer and all those bands. I think that'd be pretty cool. And see what they were kind of thinking.
Yeah, that'd be sweet actually to see kind of a movie about the first wave of black metal kind of bands. I haven't seen Lords of Chaos yet, so I don't know if they touch on that in that movie. Probably not.
Not really.
But I agree.
No.
That a first wave black metal kind of movie would be sweet.
It'd also be really cool to see one done on just all of the Bay Area thrash scene as well. That would be super cool.
Hell yeah.
And that's really all I got. It would also be cool to see an Iron Maiden movie. I think that would be cool.
Ah, damn it.
Did I steal yours?
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Oh.
Yeah, I could see that being one that Hollywood would decide to latch onto, because you can't, throw a stone without seeing someone without an Iron Maiden back patch on. So popularity in the kind of mainstream metal world would definitely make a few bucks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So is there any other maybe specific bands that you think would be cool to see a movie made about?
Not off the top of my head. And really, the only one was Iron Maiden. I also, it'd be probably kind of cool to see a Slayer movie. That would be neat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely cause some controversy too, because I know when they kind of started out, everyone was kind of really over the top fan wise. Like there'd be like cutting the Slayer name into their chest and their arm, like similar to how some of the Marilyn Manson fans would do that with his name. But
Yeah,
it would definitely be value metal films.
it's always kind of amazed me how stupid people get over certain bands.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's kind of the difference between just normal fans and fanboys. Like crossing that level into insanity when it comes to like your obsession with a band, with certain people, right? It goes beyond just being a regular fan. Like, all right. Well,
It
let's.
is kind of ridiculous.
Sorry.
I said it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to Trez from Total Metal Rejection then. What are a couple bands that you think would make for some good movies? Maybe even like a genre would you think would be cool to kind of focus on the big four of that scene and kind of go up with their story in the movies about?
Oh, obviously Iron Maiden. But to focus on the early years with um, uh, the old singer and the band members that left and came back. Obviously, the three vocalists they've had. But show that how Maiden has Dickinson has his own. I mean, Iron Maiden has his own plane, and they've done that whole tour thing. I know they released a DVD on that, but it would be cool to see a Maiden movie and a Black Sabbath one like before. Will be how they got that sound. I guess part of that was when Tony Iommi a piece of a finger, so he's kind of worried, and but yeah, based on the genres, it would be cool to see a proper a black metal movie, and so
Yeah.
based on obviously the first wave of black metal and how that all originated. But like how you were saying, some bands depends on their I could see a Black Sabbath one happening just because everybody knows Black Sabbath and even the mainstream knows them. I could see uh, throwing some money at that and making that movie happen because I know that it will do good. Kind of, I guess. But as far as genres, that would be cool. A whole movie based upon the Bay Area scene, whether it be metal and thrash metal. But that would be good. Focus on not only just the big four, but the other are still kicking ass like Exodus, Overkill, Testament, Nuclear Assault, and all those bands, Overkill. It would be awesome just to see all that stuff, how that genre of thrash, obviously not just here but overseas as well. Like the let's say Bolt Thrower, Destruction, you know, bands like that all over the place would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
A Motorhead movie too.
That would be
awesome.
cool.
Oh yeah.
Then we would probably have to see the others, the actors, You know, who would you like to play them? To be honest, in every band, and I would love to see Nicolas Cage play at least one role in every of a member in there somewhere.
You know who I think would play a damn
just
good
because
Lemmy?
it's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
You know who'd play a damn good Lemmy? Is Abbott.
Oh yeah, he actually in
Bombers.
mimic him. Yeah, it's pretty good.
He had a Motorhead tribute band.
Oh, well, there you go.
Nice.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah.
Isn't there a film that's basically about this band kind of getting bigger, and this vlogger or like magazine interviewer type person is following this band around, but they're basically Black Sabbath, but without the name Black Sabbath. Isn't there a band that's already sort of, or not a band, isn't there already a film that's like that, that's kind of around as they rise, that's basically Black Sabbath, but they, I guess, couldn't use the name in the film, so they're called something else. I'm trying to look it up on my phone. I can't find it. I remember hearing about it.
I've heard about
what
it.
you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it either. Shit.
Huh.
Bad Water or something. It's kind of like just like a wink toward sort of Sabbath, but they couldn't call it that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen. I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I've seen part of it before. Fuck, what is the name?
Damn.
Bandits? God damn it, Wikipedia, you're failing me.
It often does.
If anyone's talking about, post it in the comments below. Because now that's going to bug me. Now I need to figure out what movie that is. No, it's not fucking Spinal Tap. God damn it.
Airheads from what was it?
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler. Let's see. Ah, damn, I don't know. You know, there's a couple of things that are in the works that I've seen. I don't know what happened to those projects. They were doing a mosh movie and also a grindcore movie, but
that
I don't know
happened.
where the.
I
Oh, it
believe
did.
that
Okay.
happened. There was also last year a film about Agnostic Front that came out.
That was
I
a
heard
great
was
one.
really good.
Yeah. That
I
was
would
pretty
love to
good
see
about
that.
Agnostic Front. Yeah, that's really good. It's on Netflix, actually.
It is?
That's really good. Yeah.
I like
good
give
stuff.
that a like. I also just thought of another band I'd like to see a movie made about.
Or
Judas Priest.
Vice.
Yes.
Damn it. I knew I was missing one. Oh, yeah. Priest? Yeah.
Yeah, Priest would be amazing to see. It would sort of be like Bohemian Rhapsody, but like with metal. Rob Halford's gay, right? So.
Yeah.
Oh,
But he doesn't have AIDS.
Jesus. Shots fired. Well, this video is getting flagged.
oh.
Going
Yeah,
back to that
definitely.
whole genre thing,
No, go ahead.
going back to that whole genre thing, I'd like to see a movie about the. Maybe you could fit it into one movie. If it could be two separate movies, that'd be cool too. But I'd like to see one about the Florida death metal scene and then the New York death metal scene, early days.
Oh, hell yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yes. See,
Yeah.
you know that Florida bands rehearse in one spot? I think they used to rehearse at a storage space.
Yeah.
Seeing
Yeah.
the interaction with them, just hanging. Oh man, that would have been awesome to see.
Napalm Death?
That could be interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Like
yeah,
I
see,
want
early
the-
grind scene?
There you go. Nick Cage loses shit on stage, man, like Barney does. That would be awesome.
There we go. There's the next Sinister Sunday stream topic. What do you think, Nicholas, in a movie about a band, like what lead singers could you see him playing?
Marilyn Manson.
What was this guy's name? Oh man, they used to like get undressed and take a shit on stage and throw it his feces.
Gigi.
There you go, Gigi. See, Nick Cage and as Gigi Allen. Oh man, that'd be crazy.
Brutal.
He'd probably do a good job.
Yeah. Nick Cage is awesome.
Says I'd like to see Gwar, Ghoul, or Lordy in a movie.
Ooh, Ghoul, yes.
What about all three of them in one movie?
Yes. Yeah. Whoa. That'd be a good one. That'd be trippy.
Yeah.
That would definitely be trippy. It's just one of my choices would have been a Tool movie, but I don't know how long that movie would have been.
Or how many years it would take them to make.
Yeah, right. So far we had we've gone through, I guess, 2 wars, 3 presidents. They invented the iPhone, and still waiting for the new Tool album, which should release in April or March. Well, not
Yeah,
March,
I don't
April.
believe that at all.
Yeah.
I think they actually went back on saying that it was going to come out in April.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Gotta wait even longer.
I think that's the problem, too, because now it's more than hyped up. So, that album, I think that's the time is the worst enemy when it comes down to a band. Because the fans are just waiting. And if it doesn't, I guess, deliver, and also it might just sound aged if they're waiting for it so long. And when it finally comes out, it doesn't really meet the expectations or what's going on at the time. Hence, wink, wink, nigger figures.
Yeah.
That's also why so many older bands hardly release albums anymore. And I think Paul Stanley from Kiss put it best. He said something along the lines of, yeah, you can put out a new album and fans will like it, but then they're always going to be like, yeah, go back to playing your older stuff. Go back to playing Rock and Roll All Night and all that stuff.
Yeah. No. Oh, getting back into that hair model bands. I think they did release a movie on that scene that I recently went to. They were playing it again at a movie theater. I forgot it was called Decade of.
Decadence.
But I don't know the full name, but it was definitely Decadence in there, or Decade of Decadence. And there was a part 1 and part 2
I think
or something.
Decade of Decadence is the name of it.
Yeah, that they show the guy from Wasp, with his that scene when he's in the swimming pool and his ma is right there and he's just chugging a whole vodka and stuff. It's really weird because when you watch it now, before when you thought and you saw, obviously the girls and how hair metal bands are and stuff. Looking at it now, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
It's very obviously misogynistic, but I think that whole scene was a little bit in that way. But I guess good times though.
Yeah.
Obviously growing up, you're a kid. It was cool to watch. I forgot the second
I wouldn't
one.
want to be part of it though.
The what?
I for sure would not want to be part of that.
I would be way too crazy. I wouldn't remember any of it.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, well.
So I think the band that I was trying to think of was called, or was in the movie Almost Famous. The band's called Stillwater. I'm not sure if that's the right one or not.
Yeah, that's the one. See, that's a well-produced
I'm pretty sure
movie.
that is the one.
Great movie, and I could see bands like that Sabbath or Priest, and especially the older bands I could see that are more, I guess, popular with mainstream. I could see them coming out with a well-produced movie like that.
Yeah.
Someone said, "What about a movie about
About what?
Rush?"
That would be cool. I'd for sure see that.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty cool one.
Hell yeah! Well, yeah,
Yeah.
trippy as all hell as well. Have to be in a certain state of mind, if you know what I mean, to go in there and watch that. But that would be cool.
Speaking of Rush,
There you go.
Nice.
Sweet.
As he'd like to see an Alice Cooper movie. I definitely agree. Alice Cooper would be an amazing
Oh,
film to be made about, because he's
Yes.
kind of just the creator of shock rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or King Diamond or Merciful Fate, either one of them.
or both. Two different movies.
Or both. Yeah. Yes.
Why not both?
You know, that will. Yeah. Because you know that would be an awesome, I guess, origin story for black metal. I guess, or at least first wave, because obviously they're part of the imagery. You know, that shock rock with Alice Cooper and King Diamond. Obviously Merciful Fate, but yeah, that would be obviously Venom in there too. But yeah.
Another one that would probably be good, but would probably kind of end up being in that like early thrash kind of movie would probably be like Anthrax, because Anthrax has gone through so much shit throughout their career.
That'd be kind
And
of
plus,
fun.
they were like, yeah, that'd be amazing fun as all hell. Especially they have that crossover. They were crossover thrash, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be cool. Definitely,
They went from
a movie happen. Yeah.
well, it went from Joey Belladonna and just kind of like your new wave of British heavy metal thrash combination, then going with John Bush, which was kind of like mixing a little and thrash together, and then kind of like I think their studio burnt down or something, and they lost a bass player, joining with Joey Belladonna later on to create All Kings. So it'd be good because you kind of get that beginning story with a new singer, a new direction, and then finally reuniting with Joey Belladonna at the end of the film. The other kind of story motion for the movie.
Yeah, that could be quite cool, actually.
Yeah, that'd be pretty.
Yeah.
Cool tidbit on Anthrax. Their guitarist used to be their guitarist. Now he actually makes watches. So
I did not know that.
yeah, I know that's kind of nerdy, but yeah, that's all I got.
Comment said you could even call the movie Caught in a Mosh.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so thanks
Or
to
Persistence of Time
for that.
Damn it, again. I was about to say that. I just couldn't think of it. God damn it. Yeah, that would be pretty good.
So, sorry, Casket Brain. Trez is going to steal your idea and claim that he came up with it first. Hope you don't mind.
Damn.
I think another one that might be cool, since on the subject of thrash metal, would be the German thrash metal scene.
I think a creator movie could be cool.
That was why I was thinking of that. They're one of my favorite thrash metal bands.
They're
Yeah.
one of mine too.
The only thing is there enough drama behind their band and their career to really make it a thrilling movie?
Yeah.
German thrashing filled with drama as much as some of the other music scenes around the world. So yeah, I guess for a movie that probably wouldn't be great, but I'd still like to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, it would definitely be cool, but
Yeah.
like for like action and kind of drama and suspense for a film, you would definitely need a band that would have like some sort of like up and downs for their career, so they could like hone in that drama aspect for the mainstream audience who doesn't really know too much about the genre or that band.
Yeah.
That's true.
I was trying to think. There are too many bands or any movies right now that are out there about bands. Like there's a couple like I mentioned, there's the Runaways, the Bohemian Rhapsody one. There's Straight Outta Compton. I mean, there's a couple of like those rap movies that are basically the same, like Straight Outta Compton, Get Rich or Die Trying, 8 Mile. They're all kind of pretty similar. But what else is there though? There's like silly stuff like the School of Rock and Tenacious D stuff with Jack Black. But
Airheads.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Airheads.
Can't forget about that.
There was a great one back then. It was called semi-misogynistic in a way too. It was like a thrashy hair metal type. It was called Stone Age. I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was a semi-okay movie. I mean, just based around metalheads, I guess it was kind of alright. Then you got other ones like Detroit Rock City, which was based upon a couple of dudes just trying to go see Kiss, I guess. It's pretty funny.
Casket Brain also says, what about the Scorpions?
Oh
I don't know.
yeah.
Are they a
That could
band that would have a lot of in their career?
I don't really know, but I think it would be cool to see a movie about them.
Yeah, I think it would too. I don't know. I don't think there was really much. I mean, they were around for 50 years though, so I'm sure there was some stuff that we probably missed. But yeah, that's a movie I could get behind too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially just because they've been around for so long.
Yeah. I mean, outside of metal, I think it'd kind of be cool to see a movie about the Who.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one.
What was that about?
Yeah, I don't really know too much about the Who. I'd like to see like a contrasting like movie about maybe like the Guess Who and the Beach Boys and the Beatles, and just kind of see like what the differences was for those bands trying to make it, and why people flocked to that kind of English sounding kind of early rock, and kind of because they're kind of like the progenitors of like the heavier music that we have today, and it's kind of like what made them interesting and why did take their music and just kind of up it to the nth degree. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of neat to see a movie like that, where it's not kind of just focusing hard rock bands or rock bands, I guess, but kind of just
Focusing on all of them.
well, you just kind of follow the scene with kind of star-crossing characters, maybe like a moment with one of the bands, and have a scene later with a moment with one of the other bands, but kind of maybe have about a band that's kind of just forming in that movie, but they're kind of reminiscing about like the old rock days and what they could do to generate that hype, but with new, harder music, and just kind of have it be about that and flashing back to stuff like the really popular like rock stuff from the early 60s.
That could be quite cool, actually.
Just kind of those movies where it's like it focuses in on like a turning point in music where it goes from just regular rock to either hard rock or metal, that maybe does a big band, because if you're doing that, you could just be like, oh, then why not just make a movie about Black Sabbath, because they were the turning point from rock to the day. But I think it would be cooler to see like some sort of not so known big name metal band that kind of was the turning point from rock to hard rock or metal, but just kind of see like maybe a fictitious band made just for the movie, but maybe based on a couple of different real life bands that, you know, have the members working through how they can make the next genre, or maybe even not realizing they're making the next genre and just kind of upping the ante on heaviness and how they figured it out based on rock bands.
Yeah, that could definitely work. I could see that happening because they did a similar movie with Marky Mark. I'm sorry, that's just how I know him. Marky Mark and Zach Wilde was in it. I forgot what that was about. That they were in a. Damn it! I know Zach Wilde is in it. He shows up without his beard. He's all shaven.
God, that must be weird.
No, wait, hold on. Let me get some expert advice here by my wife. What was that movie with Marky Mark and God damn, I just mentioned his name. God damn it.
Zach Wilde.
That's why Zach Wilde. That's why you don't drink on a Sunday night too much. Zach Wilde when he shaves his glorious man beard.
I'm not sure what movie that is, to be honest.
I know I've heard about it.
What?
I know I've heard about it somewhere.
When he's like, stand up and shout, whatever. Okay, yeah. That's the name of the movie? Oh, fuck. It has a shitty name, but the movie is awesome, though. Yeah.
Oh,
it's about
Rockstar.
Yeah.
Rockstar. Damn, that's the name of the fucking movie?
That is
Yeah, it's just called Rockstar.
That's a shitty name. That's a good movie, though.
I've seen that one. It's just been so long.
Yeah.
With the band called Steel Dragon.
Yeah, Steel Dragon, there it is. Yeah, when he goes there as a fan and then the guy's wanting to quit or something, singing, and then he has the mic to him and passes the baton, pretty much. But yeah, that would be cool. Some of my fictitious a band. Who? I don't know.
I think it'd be cool if there's well, sort of like what Matt was saying, aka the Cookie Monster guy. He has a name. His name is Matt. But like Matt was saying, sort of like movies based on like early punk bands would be cool too. I know there was one for the Germs based literally on the band and was more biographical than it was like a movie based on them. Is sort of like a documentary almost. But I think it'd be cool to see like how punk bands became punk bands, you know, focusing on the differences between punk and rock and roll, like regular rock. Maybe not retread like stuff like the Sex Pistols, Ash, or anything like that. That's already been done to death, basically. But maybe more like CBGBs that weren't the Ramones? Like, because I know the Ramones probably have a couple of movies based on them, but like maybe like a Dead or like Television. I know that band's kind of weird and it's not quite punk. They are, but they aren't. Like how punk went from punk to like 80s hardcore. That would be neat. So
Yeah.
like see a movie about Flag turning into the Circle Jerks or turning into Off or a band coming from were they Agent Orange before that, or who is DI? Adolescence. That'd be cool. There, yeah. Seth Putinum asks about the CBGB one. There was a CBGB movie. We got it on Blu-ray. I think it's on YouTube if you want to see it. I think it was on Netflix at one point if you do want to see it. But yeah, movie. But I think maybe a movie more focused on the rise of one of the bands. Would be cool to see maybe some of their struggles getting.
To see a movie on the rise of Madball out of the ashes of Agnostic Front.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
Or on
Even though if you watch that movie of the Gnostic Front, they touch a little bit on that subject, which is pretty cool. I think it was on Vice. It could be on Vice.
I've heard interviews with Roger and Freddie both talking about that, but I think it'd be cool to hear them because they basically said the same things. I think it'd be cool to hear them elaborate on it a little bit more.
That'd be cool. See Roger play as Nick Cage. I'm telling you, man.
Nick Cage kind of looks like Roger a little bit.
Just Roger's a little small, I think.
Yeah.
But he could kick my ass though.
Yeah.
You know, when we were talking about the whole Rockstar, fucking stupid name, but about the fan that gets given a chance to be on a big band like that fictitious band, Iron Dragon or whatever it was called. That's what happened with Judas. Talking about Halford, I'm talking about their other singer that he was a fan and that's how he got put in the band. What was his name? Damn, this is gonna kill me too.
Judas Priest.
Anybody in the comments know? Yeah, that and Rob Halford, they got this other guy that had this cringy, cool ass name, or something like that. That's a name like that. Ripper.
Tim Ripper.
Tim Ripper, yes.
Tim Ripper Owens.
He was another one that used to have a cover band for Judas Priest, and then send him his tapes, and obviously being a fan, actually became the singer for Priest for a little bit. It was not bad. I remember that song. Hell was like really the heaviest that I've ever heard Priest before. His vocals were pretty good on that, but obviously Rob Halford is Rob Halford. But it was pretty cool to see a person that was doing covers and a fan of bands to actually sing for Priest.
Yeah.
That's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, again, out of metal, how the Journey has their current lead singer.
Yeah.
They found him on YouTube.
Nice.
Doing covers.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's how Alice in Chains got their. Oh, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's pretty awesome. Of a band, and then you actually are a member of that band that you love. If that was the case, I would have been in Sepultura years ago. But
We can all dream.
yes, we can.
Another good one, I think, now that my thing's done spazzing out, another good one, I think, would be Pentagram. To see
Oh yeah, for
them.
sure.
Oh damn! There you go.
I would have never thought of that.
I think Pentagram would be cool, just because they're kind of not as Wreck Sabbath, but they had quite the good like discography themselves. So it was like fantastic, and I think the story behind the singer is kind of interesting too. Like he was addicted to drugs or whatever, and would frequently not show up to shows, and they'd have to like figure out what to do. And then I think at the like very end of career, he basically just fucked off to the middle of nowhere and was almost dying. And then I think someone in their like crew had to go find him and get him to become like sober again. And they finally, after a while of reaching out to him, finally got him to like sober up, came back into the band. I don't know if they made another album after that, but like they finally got through to him, and it was kind of cool to see that.
Good one.
Wasn't he just recently in prison?
Yeah, he did.
I don't know.
What he did, but he did something. They landed him in jail,
I could
prison or whatever.
something about beating up his mother or something like that.
Oh, I did hear something about that.
I remember hearing about. I can't remember the crime though. I remember.
First
hearing
of
about
all-
it when
Oh no, it was.
How is his mom still alive?
It wasn't. It wasn't that he. Maybe he did beat up his mom, but I forgot what the headline was. He was negligent or something. It was like some sort of mistreatment of his mom, or. Well, yeah, it was something. About
Yeah,
that.
I got it here. He was sentenced to 18 months for beating a vulnerable adult custodian, is what it says.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Well, I mean, he was kind of a drug addict for quite a long time, so having that much brain damage probably would cause you to be a little irrational, violent, moody, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Then again, he might have mom issues or whatever, and who knows how his mom was, whatever. But because the shitty thing is your ma, you don't, it's your mother. Be good to yeah, all around sucks.
Yeah, I think his mom was like bed sick or something. Like she's in hospital care or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
But she's in like her late 80s.
Again,
or early
how is his mom still alive?
Damn it! I'm trying to think of another.
Someone in the chat says they'd like to see Dark Funeral or Dimmu Borgir.
That could be cool.
Dark Funeral for sure, because
Yeah.
you're a fan of love. So yes. Dimmu Borgir, yeah.
I'd like to see that one more than the Dark Funeral one.
I think it might be more interesting the Dimmu Borgir, I guess, since everything that's happened,
Yeah.
I guess, with them. it would make a more interesting movie. But still, I'd love to see Dark Shadow. But especially what happened with in later years, I guess, with the super band that once was Timo Borger, um, what's the name, Vortex, and Mustis, you know, how they got kicked out of the band. Um, that would have been interesting because, I would love to see them both back. And speaking of Tex, he recently rejoined Bognagar, so he is now the lead vocalist of Bognagar. See, the more you know.
It'd be cool too because you get to see maybe how bloody hell, what's his name goes and does a side project with King of Hell. So you maybe get to see a little bit of how that went on.
Oh yeah, of Hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see Old Man's Child and his fabulous mustache. How he goes back and forth between the two bands. Hopefully makes another Old Man's Child would be cool. But yeah, that would be awesome. Obviously, Nick Barker too. Obviously, being in from England, how he traveled back and forth just to go rehearse with Timo Borger. That, and obviously Hellhammer. Coming back to Demo, even though I don't know who's playing for Demo now because I lost touch. They were so black metal. I guess they had to wear white to to move the scene forward. I guess I don't know. That's when I stopped listening to Demo Borger. Not because they started wearing white and shit, but after Mustis and Vortex left, I kind of lost touch a little bit.
Yeah, Vortex had a great fucking clean singing voice. It sucked he's not with them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now there's hope. He's in Bognagar, so that would be kind of cool to see. And then again, like Mustis, I don't know whatever happened to that dude. Never heard anything from him. At least I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from him either. I think he got kicked out or left or whatever, and they just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, sucks.
I guess if you did a movie about Dimmu Borgir, you could also probably do one about Gorgoroth, considering how many singers they've had.
Yes, yeah. And that whole gal.
I still freaking hate Gaul.
Satan.
Satan.
It just drags you to a cabin in the mountain for some reason. But yeah, Gorgoroth would be cool. I mean, that whole obviously Scandinavian scene would be fucking amazing to see as a fucking whole. From Sweden to fucking Poland to Norway, that whole Germany, that whole scene would be really awesome to have.
Even Switzerland.
Oh yeah, you go. Yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome to see. Like,
be nice too because hopefully
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it'd be nice because hopefully the Chaos film opens up room for more black metal band or black metal scene movies.
I think it for sure does.
Hopefully you could get some bands that actually agree to have their music in the movies made about them.
I think it does, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the way it was filmed, the movie was really good.
Very good.
Yeah. It was the cinematography on the movie was excellent. And
no matter how inaccurate the story is.
No matter how like how like just to throw a paper airplane at the story was. But the visuals were pretty good, especially I mean, how you see the death scene of Dead was like very
Yeah,
graphic.
it was very well done.
Yeah, very well
Murder
done.
scene, the murder in the park.
Yeah. How Euronymous, met his end was, obviously there's only two people in that story who were there, so it's up to interpretation. But
And we can only hear a wrong story from one of them.
yeah. But yeah. As far as the film was, the quality was really good. My favorite scene was obviously the church burning, because obviously church burnings.
Those were shot really, really well. I thought.
Exactly. Maybe because I have never seen, like I said before, I have never seen timber burn so beautifully before. Everybody has actually filmed it and zoomed in on it, because I was like fucking mesmerized. I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking
cool.
awesome.
I wouldn't want to be there.
No, I wouldn't want to be there. Just play some black metal at the background and just watch it burn. But it was filmed really good as far as that. As far as the story was like,
the story was decent. Again,
the first act sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first act was like, hey, I'm this person, and this is my guitarist, and this is who we are. And
although Rory Culkin did a very good job of playing Euronymous, I thought.
No, yeah, he did. I mean, the acting by, I wish the whole film was in Norwegian. The Culkin, I forget, Rory, whatever his name was. I wish he narrated in English, common language, because obviously some of the songs mostly English, so would have had that bridge, but would have had more authentic. Would have been cool. As far as the actors that were in it, like Val Kilmer's kid was playing Dead, which he did a great job.
Yeah, the only gripe I have about the casting is the guy they cast as Varg.
Yeah, cringy.
Yeah, and a little bit too.
That Varg wasn't believable.
Oh, he played Varg really, really well, I thought. I hated him as much as I hate Varg.
Varg is again Nick Cage.
He's Varg. There's no other way to describe it.
Nick Cage as Varg. But again, maybe. But
yeah.
All in all, the movie was okay as a movie.
Yeah.
As far as the story, very inaccurate. Depends on Obviously, they worked with the family to get some sort of story, but again, a story don't have both sides of the story. Some maybe questionable. But then again, it's kind of like Batman. When that whole fucked up. I'm not the black metal movie that nobody asked for, that they think we deserve. But it's kind of like when Batman was saying that he's the hero that Gotham needs but doesn't want or doesn't deserve or some shit like that. It kind of felt that way. That was cool, but it's. But that if it leaves the foot in the door, bands to be made as a movie, that would be cool.
Yeah,
especially this one. This one was probably way too hard and too much going to do it. I understand why they did it, but another band would probably be a lot easier to make. And
I think it'd be cool to see a horror movie.
Yeah, very nice.
But yeah, hopefully the Lords of Chaos film could be a good jumping off point for more people to start filming about that genre, and in Rhapsody and that kind of getting good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, hopefully it encourages more filmmakers about bands. So that would be sweet. Speaking of which, another good genre would be like the brutal death metal side of things. So I know Lord Husk in the comments suggested bands like Cannibal Corpse, Decapitated, or Bloodbath. That'd be cool to see bands like them.
Yeah, yeah. That again, like someone mentioned here, I forget who. The Bay, the New York would be good to see, because you have that whole transition. Because obviously the Bay Area had the classic death metal scene, and then New York is kind of like Anthrax, had that weird crossover between thrash and hip hop, and you had and hardcore, obviously. In New York, you had that that music that came out kind of like Internal Bleeding, and bands like Pyrexia. It would be interesting to see those two, like the classic Tampa Bay death metal and the more experimental New York scene. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. You just have to figure out a way to get the rights, Metallica and Megadeth, to get actors to play their parts, because the the whole start of Metallica is very dramatic too, with them having to deal with Dave Mustaine being the alcoholic and drug addict that he was, and them like basically kicking to Los Angeles or wherever it was. Like that'd be like a good dramatic story, but then like to get both of these sign off on their music and likenesses to be used in a film would be kind of hard, I think.
I don't think Dave would do it, honestly.
Dave would probably he will make it difficult for that movie, but I would like to see it just for the obviously Cliff Burton. But that happened when the Metallica was forming, kind of like the dude from Primus for Metallica. That would have been weird and crazy. Thank you. And also news did like injustice for news did. But should have an endpoint before load happened. It should end, at least for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, pee break.
Well, I'm back. Bound to happen that I got disconnected from the call. But hopefully that's the only time.
Yeah.
No worries, man. Welcome back. But yeah, it would be really cool to see, like, even if they couldn't actually use like Metallica or Megadeth, maybe even have like a lesser known band, like even if they could use like Testament music to kind of just to sub in for Metallica and Megadeth, and then have, I guess, their likenesses used, and like maybe have a fictitious band name for each band to get through the rights issue. That'd be neat, because like we all know that like either A, it wouldn't happen because of rights issues based on Metallica and Megadeth, or B, Lars is going to want to get paid like so much money for their likeness and music to be used in the movie. So like even if the movie kind of exactly, so the movie would have to use just like thrash bands contribute the movie, but then have the like Metallica and Megadeth name be something fictitious and made up for the movie itself. But you'd stand as the audience that this is about Metallica and Megadeth, originating in the scene and the rise of Bay Area thrash metal.
Yeah, that could be quite interesting, actually.
I would just be kind of interested to see how they work on that kind of loophole or like barrier, because no one's going to want to pay $20 million to each member of Metallica just to use their music and like.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Lars would be all over that shit. I don't know what you were talking about, but you said money. Yeah, I know Lars would be involved in that.
You'd never recoup anything.
But the studio wouldn't want to pay him.
You know, Lars would probably try to play every single character in that movie.
He for sure would.
Oh, we're still talking about a Metallica movie.
Yeah. Well, I think we've kind of beaten the subject in general to death. Does anyone want to move on to the second topic of the night?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, the second topic is basically just our thoughts on kind of the death of the major label industry, and kind of just talk about how it's harder now for bands to get big, and why major labels are almost obsolete or unnecessary in this day and age because of social media and being able to promote themselves a lot easier, and also the DIY scene. So
like Bandcamp and those things.
Sorry?
But
It's like Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like there's so many outlets now: Facebook, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube. Like, how hard do you think it would be for any band now trying to make it in the industry to get big? Like, necessarily, like a big label could really do that for them anymore. And just being like having thousands of bands out there to compete with, like, I don't think anyone's really going to be talented enough or be different enough to really get the attention of these big labels, because all the labels now, they mostly just care about who can be the flavor of the week and make them the biggest bucks for like that month or half a year, and then like they're kind of gone again. It's not really a metal world anymore. It's more like these multi-hair colored rappers now that are making like the quick bucks with the major labels and stuff. I don't really see too many.
I don't see much actual talent out there.
New bands.
Yeah.
Like who?
I don't really see any talent in any of the so-called SoundCloud rappers of today at all. It all seems very similar.
Yeah, as far as rap, I just keep it old school.
Yeah, that's the best way to go.
But I think along the lines of what you said about how like the SoundCloud rappers say, how the SoundCloud rappers sound the same to us. I'm sure there's people who are fans of it that they could pick up the differences of it. Just like if someone who isn't a fan of metal, if we gave them like a death metal band and then a brutal death metal band, and they just listen to the songs, they'd be like, oh yeah, they say the same. They sound the same. That stuff, it's kind of up to the listener as to like whether or not they sound the same. I know like us being metalheads, we can be like, oh, that's black metal, that's brutal death metal, that's all that. I'm sure it's the same with all these fans of SoundCloud rappers. I'm just bringing that up too because a lot of my friends, they're not metalheads. You know, where I live,
Yeah.
there isn't a lot of people that listen to metal. You know, it is just rap and hip hop and all that. And they're able to be like, that one artist sounds different than this other artist. There's like some different subgenre of rap or hip hop that we've never heard of.
Actually, you know what? That I think that's a great point. That how you mentioned that the SoundCloud hip hop sounds the same, but in the other hand, it's kind of like how Matt, how you said that if you watch, have friends that obviously don't listen to metal like we all do, unfortunately sometimes,
Yeah.
and it all sounds the same to them. Oh, they're just screaming. It just sounds like noise, even though it's like the most complicated stuff ever made, ever played. But it depends on your exposure to it. Like we had said before, I think we all somewhat agree on. I like the old school rap because that's what I know. And now listening, because I'm not too familiar with the new sound now, it all sounds bland and the same. But to someone else that is used to it, it sounds good to them. Obviously, could be a generational thing too. These new kids, like how the old school metalheads say, "Oh, your new fucking metal is garbage," because it doesn't have heart or whatever. You know, that's how I feel with the rap now. That it doesn't have heart, and maybe
Yeah.
because I'm getting older, and I was only into rap at a certain time period, and I guess it depends on your ear and where you're at the moment, and I guess in your timeline. But I guess once if you get, it all depends on how much someone's willing enough to expose themselves to certain music. And but you know, yeah, kind of losing myself, so I'm gonna start drinking now.
That's a good solution to your problem there.
There you go. Cheers. Yeah.
No worries, man. I just think that with how many outlets we have nowadays, uh, once again, Bandcamp, Facebook, YouTube, all these outlets now are readily available to, and the whole point of a big record label back in the day, like 80s, even 90s to a degree, was to get on that label so that you could get as much promotion and push as possible, while the artist just focused on doing tours and writing music. How do you guys feel that that's changed today? Find that artists now have just as equal amount of opportunity to get noticed via social media and Bandcamp that the old bands did in like the 80s and 90s, or do you feel there's still a reason for big labels to exist?
I feel like a lot of major labels are coming out of like these massive companies that have like loads of other things in the entertainment industry, like film and all that stuff. So I think, you know, they want to put their stuff in music as well. Just, you know, Universal, they have the record label, they got the theme parks, they got movies, all that shit. So obviously they have money.
Universal is the first big one that pops into my mind.
Yeah, they got a lot. And, you know, with that, they have like all the subdivisions of it too. Now, I can't really think of any off the top of my head, but I know Lava Records, which I'm pretty sure has Greta Van Fleet signed to it. Lava Records is a subdivision of Universal. So, and with a lot of these smaller labels, they've been bought up too. You know, I think a couple of years ago, Fearless Records got bought. Artery Recordings, which was a huge staple in the metalcore and deathcore scene for the last few years. They got bought out, and they've actually pretty much been dead since they got bought out. And they were bought out by Warner Brothers. So I guess Warner Brothers saw what they were doing in the metal scene and was like, I want some of that. And then they bought them, and they've been dead since.
It's kind of like EA for the metal industry, pretty much. They just grab studios and then just close them.
Yeah. I think for a massive record label, there really isn't a need, because if you look at all the like major labels, like not the subdivisions, the major labels like Universal and Warner Brothers, they're just these big, mostly pop artists signed to them. I know they're obviously not anymore, but Avenged Sevenfold, they used to be signed to Warner Brothers. And like Black Veil Brides, I know a lot of people talk shit on them, but they were signed to Universal. They still are signed to Universal. And then their singer's solo project's also on Universal. Like, those are the only like guitar, real instrument, I should say, based artists that were on like these major labels, because all of them see pop and hip hop. I think those are the two main genres that are the most marketable, the most money is coming from them. So that's what they're signing. And then I don't really think there is much use for a label, truly, because you look at some of these smaller labels and bands that are signed to them are still doing like stuff on the side that isn't with them. Like Blood Incantation, you know, they're on Dark Descent. They have the EP and the album on Dark Descent, but they just released a live album by themselves. And then their next album that's coming out this year is also going to be on Dark Descent. So for a label, I don't really think there is much need for it anymore. You know, like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, YouTube, you know, it's so easy to be discovered.
I also think it depends on what artist you're dealing with, because I know some artists want to be on a label, and some artists also like to do the DIY thing.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
Yeah. Especially in grindcore and hardcore.
Yep.
And black metal.
Yeah, black metal is pretty much probably the easiest. Maybe grab a tape, put it on one tape deck, and then grab another stereo tape deck, and then press play on that one, and then press record on the other one. Switch them around and then do the same thing for every track. If you want to be like raw black metal.
If you want to sound like Vlad Tepes.
Yeah, but I think that the not being I think it's harder for the record labels, and they have to work. I think it's a good thing for bands, I guess, when they're big. Let's say Cold War. It allows them to make the studio throwing money at them for getting to go on tours worldwide, putting them on magazines, get their stuff from, because magazines also make their money from labels, because they have to, some of the artists that are coming out from these labels, big labels, and to put them in their front and do stories on them. Are still in a big important, the cover and kind of like magazines, to do big massive tours. That way they go to different countries, and optics, and if you're a big band, do obviously accommodations, trips, and obviously pay for your roadies and all that stuff. smaller bands and not needing that, more based on there's more money directly to the band, because you may be on let's say what do you say let's say nuclear blast tour, and maybe you're the bottom band in that tour. You're pretty much semi broke. You're just getting paid transportation to go with the band, but you have to fend for yourself if you're at the bottom. A, a lot of pure merch, and I understand the need for bands now to try to avoid that, but I feel that it's a double-edged sword, because for one thing, all the money or the revenue will go directly to, because you're selling your own stuff. You could market it, yours to be marketed, and you could go on tour when you want to go on tour. But at the same time, that you get from a bigger label, I guess, might be a trap to bands. Um, Especially if maybe they don't think that they're performing, the EA effect. If they don't think that you're performing as well, they won't throw you as much money, and then you really have to fend for yourself, or maybe whatever contract you signed, and you're only doing a couple of albums there, and I see the need to tour and tour. And Matt, like how you say, the Blood Incantation released, they have a whatever deal they have with Dark Descent, able to release material on to say, you have our studio albums, but we're going to release EPs or whatever by ourselves. That's where labels really can't fight them, because now you could release a track, or you could show it and to pretty much doing self-promotion to on your own Facebook page, live to pretty much everybody, and you get a big push from that. So I see why it's tempting, and you have the DIY bands doing it, but the more you get up there, I see the temptation to go back to a label to try to not commercialize, but more to spread your music. At least, if you want to do a video, even though I know videos, everybody could do a video. In fact, my dumbass could do videos.
Yeah.
Bands could do, but it's a giver. You definitely see the decline in big labels now, especially as you do their own thing by themselves. And to me, that's a big thing. And I see that labels are respecting that a little bit more, because I could only assume back in the day that if you signed something, you pretty much signed to the label, and there were not. But I see that labels now are becoming more flexible when it comes down to social media, because they know they can't do anything about that. If a band decides to do a YouTube channel and promote themselves, they're going to do it. They could like interference too much in it, and they could do so. So the label has to, bite their tongue in that. So beer drinking time. All right, I gotta go pee.
Fair enough, man. Nick, what are your thoughts on this whole major label thing, about not necessarily needing major labels anymore to get the promotion that major labels used to be able to do because of social media and whatnot?
I think, again, it depends on what band you're working with and where they come from and where they want to go. I think that sometimes labels kind of hinder a band's success. I think labels are a great thing. I always look forward to supporting smaller labels. Like I have a friend here in St. Louis who runs his own label, and I
Cool.
always go out of my way to support him. So yeah.
Yeah. Right, like that's the difference between like major labels and independent labels or smaller labels. Perhaps artists themselves kind of start. I'm talking more about like the EMGs, the Warner Brothers, the you know, the bands that kind of get show their en masse, like Elektra and things like that, where like even if a smaller label, you can pretty much almost do the same thing as the big labels now, because of social media, because people's just kind of following on Instagram or Bandcamp. And YouTube. YouTube is like a big thing now too, because you could be a small band one week, and then enough people see Instagram post, or enough people see your video that you spent $100 on through some independent filmmaker, like 1 million views over like a week or two, because it's just picked up that much steam. It's more of just kind of how you kind of hit that stride in your musical career, and how many people pick up on it. I think now it's more just bands needing to hit that new kind of wave, if you know what I mean, like the next big kind of metal genre or gimmick, I guess. Sort of like how, I mean, Slipknot is on a big label, I guess, like being Roadrunner. Even if they weren't on Roadrunner, Slipknot having the drive, the gimmick of the masks and whatever, and that kind of new metal wave just as it was getting big, riding that to success even without Roadrunner well. So I don't think big labels are really necessary anymore to give you that huge push. You just need to, for kind of new band with a new, maybe not new gimmick, but because unfortunately in these day and ages of things like mix and SoundCloud rappers and stuff like that, talent, like raw talent, isn't really what's going to get you where. It's more of what catches on, and what's more memorable, and what kind of gets not necessarily memed around, but like what's more, I guess, popular with the kids. And then once that gets shoved, like it starts spreading like wildfire. So you kind of need to get your special little niche as opposed to sending off demos to like 8 or 9 different big labels.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, is that so many of these SoundCloud rappers have become famous because, you know, they have one catchy song and the rest of their discography sucks. You know, it's unfortunate, but like a lot of the younger people are the ones who are.
That's all people care about these days. Is the beat.
Yeah. It's just how catchy it is, really. You know, that's why pop and hip hop are so relevant, I guess, in the mainstream, just because
It's catchy.
it's a lot easier to make a catchy pop song that the masses will like, as opposed to a catchy metal song or a hard rock song. Not saying it can't be done, of course.
It's just a lot harder.
Yeah, because I mean, even though they've been around a while, you know, there's still Avenged Sevenfold and Korn. You know, I'm sure, you know, they could definitely write something pretty catchy. You know, especially Korn.
Yeah.
They could all write something pretty catchy and it could catch on. But for the most part, you know, mainstream radio and the mainstream masses, for like fans and stuff, you know, they're just going to ignore. They're going to ignore metal and hard rock and even just rock in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go even as far as to say that regular rock and roll is pretty much dead. Like, I don't see or hear too much about just any new regular rock and roll bands like out doing too much.
Yeah. I think like the closest we've got recently is Greta Van Fleet, and I think they're iffy.
Yeah.
You know, they are one of those bands where they have one or two good songs, and the rest of it is just shit.
Or it all sounds exactly the same.
Yeah. And they sound way too much like Led Zeppelin. If I wanted to listen to Led Zeppelin, I'd listen to Led Zeppelin.
Exactly. I don't even really think Greta Van Fleet sounds too much like Zeppelin on some songs, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, if Greta Van Fleet sounds like Led Zeppelin, so does Wolfmother. So does oh fuck, what's that other band? Even White Stripes does it sometimes, depending on how crazy on the guitar. It's just that kind of like groovy rock and roll sound with those over the top kind of like vocals.
Well, if you the only thing that I having grace for I guess rock and roll, bands like Crip Sermon, I think it's called, you know, bands like that, would really bring me back to that somewhat era of Led Zeppelin in a way, because I know they're have their own thing going on, but hard rock, I have to go back to the closest thing that comes to Led Zeppelin, at least for me, is like doom metal bands nowadays. Like what's that name of the band? God damn it! Like a wizard with a white beard and every. Well, Electric Wizard, a little bit on the nose there, but yeah, Electric Wizard. What's the name of that band?
Not Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats.
Not Uncle Acid. Yep, yeah. But yeah, to get that sound, I know that it's very hard now, especially it's maybe a roadblock for some bands to take on, because that sound's not too popular now, unfortunately, and it's easier to get a hit song, I guess, for the mainstream, and for a band like that to go a different route, and that's where you get bands that have hit songs and are very poppy and very generic, and you know what they could have been. Maybe they decided to go a different route just for whatever's popular now. Kind of like these rap, the whole auto tunes thing, and they all pretty much sound the same. I think Eminem said it. This whole how a certain way they're rapping is not really talented. It's just they're just meshing songs, rhymes together, but not in a talented way.
They're not even
Uh,
really. There's no real lyrical content. Even it's just
yeah,
bragging, basically.
Yeah.
yeah,
All
it's
I,
more bragging.
all these rappers seem to be talking about in their songs is about drugs and fucking. That's literally it. There's
And
not.
other materialistic possessions.
Yeah. There's nothing like. It's nothing super deep. It's nothing like. Nothing real genuine, I guess. You know. Don't get me wrong. Songs about drugs and sex can be great. I mean, if you look at
Yeah,
all the metal and
hair metal
hard rock
bands.
bands that were coming out of the '80s, you know, they sing about that most of the time. But
Yeah, but
you
they
know, they
had their
still had
own
some songs that
feel.
were deeper.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
they had substance to it. That something that you could sink your teeth into and like
Yeah.
gnaw at it. It's like, ah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't them just saying, "Look at all these hoes" and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But getting back to the I guess the record labels and things like that, I think what came to change a lot of that is obviously the platform that we're all on right now, is YouTube. You know, you could promote the shit out of your band um, on YouTube. You could a band could do so much with YouTube, as in give updates, live updates for the band. And obviously, if you're a fan of that band, you're gonna subscribe to their channel, and they could give updates on their tour. Where they're gonna be this day. Do a little vlog of their own tour. And they could do a whole series on that. Also, do playthroughs of their songs. You know, again, if you're a fan of the band, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit!" You see the band actually playing and showing you how to play it, or discussing the lyrical themes of the songs, and see what you know. That way, you get it's more personal to a fan to see them go on YouTube and obviously being subscribed to them and them talking to you or giving you vlogs on them recording, because everybody wants to see that shit. It's kind of like what record labels sometimes do. They add in a bonus DVD of them playing and their rehearsal and recordings of said album. Um, but they could do that as well on YouTube, so it's pretty cool. Again, the platforms are there now to do all these things. Like Jesse, you had mentioned Instagram. Um, you could do just updates and just fucking tweet about it, even though I've never fucking been on tweet or Twitter. But but you know, you could pretty much if you want to communicate to the masses, or if you have fan base, you could do that at any point in time. The record label does has a lot to deal with, of course, because they have so many bands to administer and logistics, and all bands are around the world are with them. So I understand that maybe it's harder for them to do that. Bands are taking it upon themselves to do all this work. Obviously, it's cheaper for them and pretty much free. Um, so for platforms like this going around, especially YouTube and Facebook, pretty much they have their own official page. A lot of bands have stopped doing official web pages because Facebook. Um, and also as a word of mouth thing, kind of like I could post a band that I discovered or maybe is new to me on Facebook, and whoever is friends with me or following me could click on that band and say, "Oh shit, you know, who's this band?" And then you know that's how it trickles down to everybody else. And what I think is cool now, and that's why I think that labels don't play a big part in that, which is a lot of the work is done by the bands and also their fans to distribute pretty much the message. And hey, check this out. It's kind of like tape trading back in the day, because that's the only way you heard about these bands is by word of mouth. And listen, you have your friends, like, what are you listening to now? Hey, listen to this. And as far as social media now, it's very instantaneously you could do that, which is pretty awesome for band and for everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that the level of success that your kind of average metal band can get now is sort of plateaued, like now, because record labels, like major record labels, aren't really looking for like most metal genre bands? They're now more like the most mainstream thing, the thing that appeals mostly to young teenagers and maybe young adults at most. They're trying to just get whatever appeals to them. So now most metal bands coming out today kind of can only go far, so they plateau. And like the biggest they can get is maybe like on Warped Tour if they're punk, or bands. Yeah, bands and Warped Tour are the same thing. Or if they're metal, like maybe Not Fest or Ozfest, and that's as high as they can get, like making, because other than those, I don't really see giant sellers for like.
Well, I think it depends if you're Cannibal Corpse
Genre.
Uh-huh. What was the last thing you said, Jess?
What?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is great.
You're tripping out a little bit. I'm gonna... can you hear me now? Maybe? No? Maybe yes? No.
Maybe he can hear us, but we just can't hear him or see him.
Oh, I can't really hear a thing.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Cool.
I can hear you now. Please.
Please tell
We
us.
should-
It is important.
Please tell us. We shall summon you right now. The northern gods of chaos. Fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. Son of a bitch.
It happens to the best of us.
Yes, it does. Jess, you still there?
Yeah, still here.
Hey.
Just
All right.
just trying to keep up with everyone.
All right. What were you saying? Sorry, I totally forgot what you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying that with like metal bands these days kind of only are able to just kind of plateau with the level of success they can get. And I'm just wondering, like, is there any way for bands to just kind of get like beyond that these days? Because the biggest I think they can get for the most part is appearing on things like Knotfest or Ozfest or things like that. Like, you don't really see the bands anymore getting super successful, like Metallica, Slipknot, Avenged Sevenfold got pretty big, I guess, at one point. Do you feel that they're plateauing now?
As in, what you've seen with kind of like how newspapers are starting to decrease in sale. Also, the postage stamp is starting to decrease in revenue and sales. I think we're probably seeing the same thing in record labels and bands. I know that for the older bands, kind of like Cannibal Corpse, that of their music, which is hard for any other band to do that. They're in a certain spot where they sell, and wherever they just kind of it depends on who you like, the older or Corpse is kind of Corpse. As far as nowadays, plateauing in their record labels or in general. I have seen, maybe because I'm not paying attention, part of it is that social media and Bandcamp and and things like that haven't gone on a nuclear blast in a long time. Only just to order their top teams, you could say it. Their media, it's been a long time since I've been on that to order stuff from. It's only bands that are known worldwide as far as their reach with the record label and magazines and stuff like that. But I've seen a steady decline in that, and that record labels are kind of struggling and to pump out. And that's why some bands get picked up real quick into labels. And at the same time, they might have the EA effect that if they don't produce as well as the label thinks they are gonna prop. But there is a point where a band can plateau, whether it be from the band itself, but as labels go, I've seen a steady decline in, at least for me, the bigger labels like Nuclear, Century Media, definitely Roadrunner. I haven't read their website in years. It's just because I think they're the EA of that's a tricky question, because as far as a band plateauing, or it's kind of hard. It's kind of tricky. It's a fucking good question.
Well, yeah. Well, it's just because we don't see things like we did in the 80s, where the separation between like small bands that got not really too much attention were kind of down here, and then you'd have like huge spikes in popularity for like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 bigger bands. Like you'd get like your Metallicas that would spike huge for like the thrash genre, and then you'd see spikes for bands like Slipknot, who was huge for the new metal genre, or you'd see bands like everyone would buy like a Korn album back in high school. Everyone had probably a System of a Down album in high school. And then you'd see jocks and preps and Metallica Ride the Lightning shirts and stuff like that. And there would be these odd spikes in metal where there's 1 or 2 bands that would like be really, really big, and then the rest of the bands would kind of just sit around here and they wouldn't really do too much. You don't see that anymore in metal. It's more like the big bands are kind of like here, but now all the other bands plateau probably like around, where there's a big separation where a lot of bands are kind of here in level with these really, really big bands like selling out everywhere and having so much money selling millions and millions and millions of albums. Now it's kind of just like plateaued a bit, where it's like even like the big metal bands now are mostly just mid-level, and they only can go so far. They don't really spike up like Slipknot does with sales and popularity, or Metallica did back in the thrash days with the popularity. You don't see those giant like major giant metal bands anymore. Most people just plateau at a certain height of popularity in the metal scene now, and it's kind of like media. And because everyone wants to be in a fucking band nowadays, you've got oodles and oodles of bands showing up everywhere, every nook and cranny of the world. Even third world countries now have like full membered bands, or probably 5 or 6 bands in their country that are like, you know, can make it now to a certain plateau because of like the rise in social media and the interest in metal. It's now made it so there's no more really big metal bands, but you can't also get past a certain level once you make it big in metal anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
I think that labels and magazines lock their core bands down, and you see it on magazines all the time. One of the biggest black metal bands to come out for the last 8 years or something like that, Ruins of Beverus. You do not see them on the front cover of any magazine for some reason, because they're more underground. And when it comes down to the plateau part, what I think is that a lot of bands can't have that, and record labels have that thing locked down, which they're gonna support these bands as much as they can, but you don't see those crazy amount of big ass concerts like Slipknot had during the 2000s, early 2000s. That those big shows, you don't see those anymore. Arena stadium concerts are pretty much non-existent in metal as much. I don't know why, but
It's kind of sad.
it is very sad. It's sad that to know that the big four is the only thing we have to look forward to doing some sort of arena stage, or if Maiden comes to town.
Yeah.
It is fucking sad, because Slipknot, when you had Marilyn Manson, and they would have big arenas for them, and
But the thing that's kind of taken those big stadium show places has been festivals.
yeah,
You start
because
seeing more and more festivals pop up, and festivals are a great thing.
yeah, so it's like a double-edged sword when you come down to bigger bands, and also, like you said, bands that there's a certain plateau and there's no longer a spike anymore between both of them, because of you could promote your band faster and quicker if you do it on your own, but at the same time, those labels leech on to certain bands, like Cannibal Corpse, At the Gates, Carcass, and bands like that, Arch Enemy, to be on the front covers of magazines, to create ticket sales for the label and obviously for the band. But it's gotten to the point where it's very diluted, the line between big label bands and big bands that are not on labels. So that spike has pretty much not flatlined, but it's close to being pretty much neutral when it comes down to bands like that. It's only when the labels throw fucking a bunch of money, and let's say Nightwish decides to do a massive tour. And it's sad that here in the States that we don't have those big arena shows like other countries do have.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Well, go ahead.
I think another thing too is like with the 80s, you could tell like all these bands, you could name off loads of bands from the 80s that have and maybe even still are filling like arenas and stuff like that. You know, like how many bands since the turn of the century for hard rock and metal, how many new bands can really do that anymore? Like since like the mid 90s, like for hard rock and metal, like the amount of bands that have really spiked in popularity has gone way down. Like I think the last like metal bands to really make it mainstream to fill these big arenas and stuff was probably Five Finger Death Punch. And, you know, some people are going to debate me as to whether or not they're an actual metal band or not. I'm sure, but to me they were like, that was the last bit metal and hard rock band to really like fill up an arena. You know, I think they started doing that like 2010, early 2010, stuff like that. You know, so it's been like 8-9 years since we've had a band that has really risen to that level of success in the hard rock and metal scene, which really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, how many other bands since 2000 have been able to do that? Like almost none.
I have one, maybe Tool, if they ever released a new album.
Maybe we'll get it.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, maybe this year. But
Yeah.
you know what? A good point that my brother-in-law mentioned, that he's dying for me and, you know, to go to a show. He doesn't go to as many shows as I do, even though I don't go to many shows that I would like to go. But there's two bands that are touring together. I believe it's, I could be wrong on this, but I believe he told me it was Black Dahlia Murder and Meshuggah. Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Fuck yes. I'm like, oh, fuck yes. And we looked, yeah, and I'm in fucking New York, so I looked at we looked at the ticket sales just to plan the shit out, because I know that shit's gonna sell out pretty quick, because obviously Meshuggah, Black Dahlia Murder, I believe there were like it was $60, just them two. Jeez. Nobody else. And, you know, I was like, fuck. And he was like, $60. But I'm like, listen, okay, if Black Dahlia Murder was headlining a show by themselves with maybe a supporting act and maybe a opening act, which unfortunately I have always been the opening act for any band, but besides the point, they would charge, the ticket sales would be $30, right? Because, you know, obviously the big band, and, you know, it trickles down to every other band. But if you have a record label has two big hitters, Murder, and obviously those two bands have to get paid somehow. Both ticket sales are going to be $30 a piece. That way, the majority of the funds, or half of the funds, or however the label decides to do it, goes to each of the bands. So I think that's where labels can do these sort of things. It's not fucking fair for the people that try to go see these shows, because I'm still marinating on the idea of going to the city, paying for parking, and then going to watch the bands. And I think I'm probably going to get shit-faced before going to see those bands, because I'm not willing to pay $8 or $12 for a fucking beer that's sub that tastes like shit. It tastes like piss, pretty much. So, I think that's where I understand why labels have these bands and they cling on to them, and why a tour like Black Dahlia Murder and Meshuggah would make sense, because Black Dahlia Murder is obviously awesome U.S. band, and having to see Meshuggah, who the fuck doesn't want to see Meshuggah? So yeah, I think that that's the only way it wouldn't be an arena show, but it would be the definitely sellout show. So I think that's where unfortunately, I think that Black Dahlia Murder and Meshuggah could pretty much sell out an arena on their own if they were given the chance to. But depends on the label and how much they're willing to spend on that, or if that's how it works anyway. But yeah,
man.
Well, I gotta go. I
think that's the amount of time we got for this stream. It would have been
what?
Huh?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's about all the time we got for the stream. Unfortunately, I do got to get going. It would have been cool to touch on like how the last big spike in bands that we got in metal was probably during the new metal kind of those bands. But I think we've kind of just established that unless a new giant metal comes along, we're probably not going to see a big spike in metal bands anymore. They're probably so. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Let us know what your thoughts are on what bands you'd like to see movies on in the comment section after the stream's done. Let us know what your thoughts are on how kind of big labels are nowadays, and give us your thoughts on why kind of metal bands are kind of plateauing and can't really hit us that those bands that did in the 80s and early 90s have. This has been episode 19 of Sinister Sunday. I want to thank panel for joining me, that being Trez from Total Metal Rejection, Matt from Green and Cannibal, and our guest for this stream, Nick from Deathlike Reviews. Thank you guys for joining me. Really appreciate it. And thank you guys in the live chat for participating, giving us your thoughts. And that's it for the Sinister Sunday. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.